So before we jump into After Effects, let's take a look at this character animation. Now, a little bit of background. This is a student of mine in my character animation course called Character Animation Launchpad. And I'm just going to pull that up real quick. So just a quick little self-promotion here. I've got this course right here. This is the landing page for it. It has all the information about what's in the course, kind of the curriculum that we cover, a little bit about me, some thoughts from students, and then, you know, it's all the information's here if you want to learn more about that. But we're going to create kind of animations like this, like this. You know, here's some sample animations from the course. This is the same one as up here. Anyway, the whole point of this course is to help you to animate, to break out of that kind of After Effects look. I feel like there is a little bit of a After Effects look with characters animated in After Effects. They all look kind of like stiff, robotic, yada yada yada. I've had those comments from viewers of the live stream before. So in this course, I'm really trying to help you break out of that by showing you how to animate things like anticipation, overlapping action. We go over how to do a walk cycle. You know, we break it down, and then we take that breakdown of a walk cycle, we apply it to an actual animation where our character walks in, stops in the middle of the frame, and then does some kind of action. So that assignment is what today's animation that we're going to go look at is from. It's from the first module. Then we have a couple more animations. I show you how to incorporate body turns in the course. I show you how to approach things like foreshortening. Foreshortening is like, you know, when an arm is pointed towards the camera, how do we illustrate this, right? Foreshortening is a very common technique in drawing and art to kind of create the illusion of depth on a 2D plane, right? So drawing happens in a 2D medium. So how do we incorporate depth into that drawing? Well, it's a technique called foreshortening. And so we talk about how to achieve foreshortening in After Effects. Anyway, there's lots of stuff. There's more stuff than that in this course. You can go check it out here at keyframeacademy.com/character launchpad. I've got the link on screen as well as in the description. You can go check it out. Okay, so let's pull up that animation. Give me a second here while I pull that up. We can see this animation. Hopefully everything's going to work good. Okay, you guys can still hear me right. And we got the animation here. Okay, let me just play this animation, then we'll talk about it. Okay, that's it. Let me play it one more time. Actually, I'll play it a few more times just so we can see it a few times. Okay, so as this animation plays, first of all, I want to say that for, you know, not being a character animator and this being among the first animations that this student has done, it's really pretty good. It's a good base animation. We have the walk in, the arms are swinging the right way, the legs are not being overextended. It's really pretty good. Okay. There's even this little spot right here where where the character brings up his little water spigot, and we have the back foot right here. It kind of pivots back. Like, that's a little detail that is a small little detail that most people aren't going to consciously notice, but it's a nice little detail. Like, he's telling a story here. He's getting ready to shoot the water, and he's making that little step back. You can even see like when the water starts coming out, there's kind of like a reaction, right? Gets pushed back in this direction. Just very subtly. You know, another thing he's doing right is your arms always swing the opposite way of the leg on that side. So since the this leg is going this way, then this arm is going this way, right? And then this leg's going forward, so the arm on the same side is going to be going backwards. That's just a little principle of character animation. And or that's a principle of walk cycles. You got to follow that principle. So we're doing a lot of things correctly. Now, think about, let me just, I don't know if I can delete this. I guess I'm going to have to erase this. It's a little distracting. Okay. So as we play this back, think about what we can do to make this character animation, which is already pretty good. How can we bring it to the next level? What is it missing? And what is it missing? So here's a few thoughts I have. Let's see if you guys agree. First of all, all the movement is kind of subtle. And in animation, we have the opportunity to kind of go big. And one of the principles of animation, from the 12 principles of animation, is exaggeration. So I feel like some of these movements are just a little too subtle for me. I want this little water spigot. There's no weight to it. It doesn't feel like he's holding something that weighs anything because we're not exaggerating the movement. The other thing is I like a little bit more up and down movement in the let's go frame by frame here in the walk. Look at the body. It's barely bouncing up and down. And I just want a little bit more personality to that walk. Okay, there's no head movement. There's no rotation on the body. But in terms of feet placement, right? The feet aren't sliding, which is an issue that a lot of people, if we go frame by frame here, like that foot is not moving, sticking right to the ground. That's an issue a lot of people have with walk cycles when they want to have a character actually walk across the screen. There's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. They teach you how to do just like a walk cycle loop where your character's just looping in the middle of the screen. And then people take that and they want to pre-comp that, put it in another composition, and then keyframe the position of that pre-comp to move across the screen. But what ends up happening is that the feet don't actually plant themselves on the ground like they do here. And again, this is something that I cover in my course about how to do this. And we'll actually open up this project file, and you guys will actually get to see exactly how this works. Anyway, so okay. So besides I'm going to exaggerate the movements a little bit. I think the up and down motion of the body needs to be adjusted. I just want to see a little bit more bounce there. And then I want to add some weight to that water spigot. Besides those, any other suggestions as I open up After Effects here? Type in the chat any other suggestions you have about what you think this character animation needs. So I'm going to let that play one more time while I open up After Effects. Okay, we're open here. Okay, so here we have the animation. I'll just play it one more time. Now this is the character rig. It's embedded in a composition, right? So, and that's often how we'll do stuff like that. We'll do the character rig in one composition, pre-comp it, put it in the composition with the background, do that separately, when appropriate. One reason why I like to do that is just because oftentimes, as you will see with this character animation, there's just a ton of layers. And what ends up happening is that when you do character animation and when you have all your layers for your character rig and your character animation, and then you try to do the background and stuff on top of that, it just gets it gets a lot, you know. So break it up, simplify things, put your character stuff into one pre-comp. The only reason why I would have a background element in the same composition as my character rig is if I'm tight on time and I need the character to interact with that element. Otherwise, I'm just going to separate them out, simplify my timeline. So let's go into this and let's start working on making some adjustments to this. So Mr. Harker says, agrees with bigger movement. That water coming out would have a lot of power pushing back. Yeah, for sure. Let me just put this up on the screen so you guys know which comment I'm reading. Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm not going to... Now, here's the rule of this critique. I can't change the animation fundamentally, right? He has to still be walking in. He still has to shoot the water, and it still has to be relatively the same length of time because this animation is actually a part of a bigger video, and it's, you know, it has its time allotted to it, so I can't necessarily go too crazy with it, right? So let's get rolling on this animation. So the first thing I'm going to do anytime I'm animating, and I'm going to do the same thing as I make adjustments to this animation, is I'm going to start with the torso. So let me find the torso here with the torso layer, and we can see the animation path here. And you can see that the up position where the body's going up and the down position, which is represented by these keyframes, are all on the lower position, and they're not, you know, it's barely going up and down. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust the timing of these keyframes, and I always like to separate the X and Y position when I'm animating characters, just like this student has done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab these keyframes and I'm going to make sure that they're all evenly spaced. Looks like the Y are now evenly spaced. Now, there are these X keyframes, and I think a better view is just going to be out like that. So there are these X keyframes right here, and they're all offset by one frame. And actually, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to line them up with the down keyframes of the walk cycle. And actually, I personally wouldn't have these three keyframes here. I would just have the starting X keyframe and the end. But I'm just going to keep those here for now because they're not doing anything bad. I just think they're a little unnecessary. So the next thing is I know that these X keyframes are all on the down part of the walk cycle. So they're all on the part where the body goes down as you walk. So I know that all these keyframes in between those X keyframes on the Y position are all the up positions. And I think that the height of the up position is actually pretty good because if you look at this leg here, it's straight, and that's kind of what we want in the walk cycle. So it's not the higher part of the walk cycle that needs to be adjusted, but I think the lower part. So I'm going to grab the low part, and then I'm just going to pull those down. And the reason why I'm able to do this is because I have all those keyframes selected, and then I have my playhead on the keyframe. And as long as the playhead is on one of the selected keyframes, I'll make adjustments to all the keyframes. So I'm just going to bring all of those down a little bit. And then I am going to just turn those keyframes back to linear keyframes because we're going to redo the easing. I'm going to grab these up keyframes, come to keyframe velocity, and I'm going to put it at 80. And what you put for the influence, whether it's 80, 70, 60, I don't know. That's a total personal decision, right? I don't... that's not a rule. I just like the way that this looks. And then on these down keyframes, I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to hit F9 on my keyboard. Just add some default easing, and to make that down hit as the body bounces up and down a little bit softer. So you can see that down. In fact, I'm going to trim my workplace so we're not previewing the whole timeline. We're just focused on the walk cycle here. You can see how when the body dips down, it's kind of like a really abrupt change in momentum. So that's why I like to just apply some default easing to that down frame. And then if we watch this, see it's a little bit softer. Now, this might be a little too much of a dip. Like, this is where things get a little into the, you just have to finesse it a little bit. Okay, that already feels better. Okay, now let's move on to the legs. So we have the right leg here, and you can see how it's animated. Now, I want to bring your attention to something. So this student accidentally named their right leg wrist, because Limber will automatically name things for you. But this isn't a wrist. This should be an ankle, and there's an easy way to fix this. So if I have that selected and I come over to Limber, and then in Limber, I just have to go over here, select the type, change it to leg, and then hit rename. And now it renamed that right leg wrist to right leg ankle. That's just a simple thing to keep you organized. And staying organized when you have a complex animation like this does save you a lot of time. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's work on the animation here. So what I like to do is I like to adjust all the contact poses. So when both feet are hitting the ground, make sure that those look good, and then the rest of your animation will look good. So, and again, you'll notice that on the right ankle, we've separated the dimensions of the position of the ankle so that we can animate the X position and the Y position separately. We can animate those two motions separately. This gives us a little bit more control over the motion. Makes things simpler, in my opinion. Now, I will say that the general animation of this is pretty good. The height that the leg is being lifted off and all that stuff, that's all good. I'm not going to make too much adjustments to that. And the position of this contact pose is pretty good. Let's see. I think that this is pretty good. I might bring this over a little bit. And sorry, let's go back here. So when you're looking at your ankle, you know that this is the step that it's coming forward, and then this is the step that it is planted on the ground, because there's no Y keyframe in between of the foot lifting up. That's what this keyframe is right here. So if I want to adjust the position of this foot, whether it lands forward or backward, right? I'm going to grab both of these keyframes and make adjustments to both of them. If I grab just one of these keyframes, right, I'm going to have two keyframes, and then we're going to have some sliding. So I always want to grab these two keyframes when I'm making adjustments to where the foot is landing. If I need to scoot it back a little bit, I'm going to grab both of those keyframes. By the way, if you have any questions, make sure you're leaving them in the chat because I would like to address those questions. But we'll keep rolling. So I'm going to just bring that. And there's a lot of reviewing changes. So I always like to make an adjustment, see what it looks like. That looks pretty good. And I want to make sure that the rotation keyframes are all lined up with my foot. For some reason, they are unaligned. Okay. And I'm going to just extend that rotation a little bit. Okay, so the rotation of the foot at its highest point, the foot's kind of pointed down, and then it rotates back up. It over-rotates a little bit. So as your foot comes on the... Let me just show you. So your foot starts like this, it rotates like that, and then as it comes to plant itself on the ground, it should be pointed up, and then it goes flat. So that's what we're doing here. You can see like the foot is slightly pointed up, and then the heel touches the ground, and then it goes back to flat right there. Okay. And then I'm just watching the foot placement. It's pretty good. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the ankle, and I'm going to come over to the dynamics, and hopefully you guys can see this, but there's a little anti-pop feature here. I like to put this to about 75%. Just makes a little bit more forgiving in the yep. I think it just makes things a little bit better. So let's go to the other leg. So this is the oops, I selected the wrong controller. All right. Again, same thing, left leg wrist. We're just going to rename that to left leg ankle. Staying organized. And then if you look at this, you can tell that this is where this leg comes forward because of that Y, and it's opposite of the other leg. And bring that back. And this is really good. You can see how this step is really large, and then it gets smaller because this last little step doesn't need to be as large because it's just catching up to the body, which is stopping right there. Okay, and then we need to come back to the foot, left foot, bring up those rotation keyframes, and align them with the step. I'm not really sure why those rotation keyframes were offset by one keyframe, but they should be synced up with the foot. Let this play through once. I feel like this needs to maybe come back a little bit. needs to be about right there. This is why you got to check all your contact poses, because I made that adjustment, but then this leg is like really stretched. So I want to just bring it right here. Okay, good. As I'm watching this, I'm thinking maybe I bring that up, and then maybe I just bring that up just slightly. Okay, good. Let's move on to the arms. So these are appropriately named left wrist. And we've got the left wrist and then the hand rotation. And like I said, these are rotated quite well. I am just going to bring that back a little bit. Okay. Then what I can do is copy these keyframes, paste them here, copy this keyframe, paste it here. And then on this resting keyframe, I'm just going to bring the forward a little bit. Now this, right now we are animating in FK, right, for the arms. So as you can see, when we're animating in FK, I have individual control over the rotation of each joint. And then I'm going to take that and offset it. So the rotation of the shoulder, let's go down here. So this is the rotation of the shoulder, this is the rotation of the forearm, and then of the hand. And I like to offset all of these by one keyframe, starting at the shoulder and working its way down the arm. So let's preview what that looks like. We're looking at this arm. Looks good. Now I just need to copy the values here. I love this little script. It's called copy ease. Copies the ease, but it also can copy just the value of the keyframe. And that's what I'm doing here. Because at this moment, I don't want to mess with the easing of these keyframes. And so by just pasting the value of the keyframe and not its easing, I'm maintaining the easing of these keyframes because I don't think it's the same as the easing of these keyframes. And by easing, I just mean the influence of the keyframes, the incoming and outgoing influence. If I were to just Control C, Control V, I'd be just copying the values and the easing of these keyframes. Adam, good question. And let me just turn off the URL here so we can see it. From your experience and expertise, I'm curious if you analyze these in a standard checklist method, meaning, do you have an instinctive way you always evaluate these types of animations? Instinctive way, yes. I think that instinct just comes from experience. But also, we could just look at the 12 principles of animation and start to pick apart whether or not an animation is incorporating those 12 principles, or if it's not. And if it's not, we just start adding them to it. So one of the things is exaggeration. So we're trying to exaggerate things a little bit. Later, we'll go over overshoot, anticipation, all that stuff, and I'll show you how I usually tackle those things. But yeah, and then some of it is just kind of feeling it out, right? I know what I'm doing here because I already went through this off stream, so I kind of already have a plan for how I'm going to approach fixing this animation. And in doing it off stream, there was a little bit of trial and error. Do this, does it look good? Nah. So yes, so there's two things here that you need to there's two things that you need to think about when doing something like this. There's the technical side, and then there's the kind of the, I don't know what you call it, the intuition side. So technically, you want to learn how to animate. You want to learn how to use the software. You want to learn how to use Limber, all of its features. And then there's the intuition side that you need to learn what looks good. You need to learn why it looks good. And then you need to develop the ability to differentiate bad animation from good animation. Or in this case, good animation from being able to look at something that is a good animation and just being able to understand what's missing that can kind of bring it up to that next level. And that just takes experience and practice, right? And Adam follows up with, but you don't start at the head, go to the shoulders, arms, and hands. So if I'm understanding the point you're making here is, if I were to use a checklist method, it would seem to reason that I would start at the head, then go to the shoulders. Well, that's just not how things are animated. The head doesn't really dictate the movement of a character, right? I guess if you wanted to, it could, but I like to use the torso of a character to kind of be the leader of the animation, the leader of the motion. And there's two reasons for that. One, everything connects back to the torso. Arms all connect to the torso. Legs connect to the torso at the hips, arms at the shoulders, and then the head and neck connect back to the torso. So unfortunately, After Effects doesn't really have like a so before I get to that, to answer your question, I do have the checklist. That's why we're starting with the torso. I'm moving on to the feet and then to the arms, right? And there's a reason why we do it that way. And so now I'm explaining why I start with the torso. It's because everything is parented eventually back to the torso. The torso is the kind of the main thing that everything's parented to. The arms don't get parented to the head. The legs don't get parented to the head. They all go back to the torso. And then the head goes to the torso. Okay, I think I've made that point. So that's why I like to use the torso to drive the animation. And then I move on to the feet, because the feet will dictate which way the arms swing. Because the arms should always swing the opposite way of the leg on that same side. So once I've got the motion of the body down, then I will go on and get the motion of the feet down, which foot goes forward first, and then by extension, the next foot will go through. Then once that is all laid out, then I'm going on to animate the arms swinging back and forth, because I know which leg's coming forward, so that means that arm needs to go backward. So hopefully that all makes sense. But really good questions, Adam. And I do have a checklist. Now, it's more of a mental checklist because I've done this so many times. But there might be a thing in the future for, maybe like a PDF or something that you can like look at and just kind of you don't need to physically check anything off, but just kind of a reference for why I do that. So thanks for that question, Adam, because that does bring up a little bit about thought process of why we do things in a certain way. And I'm not saying that this is the only way. My way is not the only way. But I've just done so many walk cycles that I've kind of developed this way of doing it. And so hopefully that's coming across. Okay, so we got the arm. The left arm is pretty much done. Okay, good. Let's work on this right arm now. And it's pretty much done. I do want to just exaggerate the swinging a little bit. So I'm going to find my right wrist. And Luca just subscribed. Welcome to the channel, Luca. If you're watching right now, welcome. If you're not, hopefully you'll see this video later and you'll see that you're welcome. Okay, so our upper arm's missing some rotation values on the bottom half. So I'm going to go in and just add those. So this is another method that I can point out now that Adam's got me thinking about methods. I like to, when I'm animating my arms, I'll go through and I will typically I'll have all the rotation keyframes of all three parts lined up on the timeline here. And then I'll go through and animate these. Okay. So I'll go through, animate these. And I want this little spigot thing. Looks good. Now I'm going to take a moment right here and I'm going to grab all the keyframes. I'm going to hit U on my keyboard and then U again to bring up all the keyframes for all the layers. And I'm going to grab all these keyframes over here because I know that these keyframes are for when he pulls that spigot up. And I'm just going to move these all away. So this whole section is I'm just going to give myself some space to add a little bit of animation. Then I'll move those keyframes back. I just want these out of the way for now. Okay, so we're working on the arm. Where's that? Okay, here it is. And as he comes to a rest, that's pretty good. So this is how I do overshoots. Okay, because I want the arm to kind of come to a rest. So if this is the arm, let me just go big screen here. Let me use this as an example, even though it can't bend. If this is the arm and it's swinging forward, I don't want it just to come like this, right? I want it to come like this. Forward and then stop. It's hard to do. So as it does its last swing and he's stopping it, it's going to go a little bit past the point where it rests like that and then like that, okay? I don't know if that's a good demonstration, but that's what I'm going to try to do. And this is basically what I do. So when I've got the keyframes, I've got everything where it's going to end, I will copy that and then move those keyframes over and then paste those keyframes. And I'll do the same for the hand here. Copy that, move it over, align it with these keyframes, and then paste. Now I have some keyframes I can use. The reason why I've copied those end keyframes, moved them over, and then repasted them back to where I was is because having those keyframes here, one, gives me keyframes to work with, but two, shows me where I need to rest, so it shows me how much further I need to extend that. So it goes like this. Let this pre-render. Okay, good. So it kind of goes a little bit further and then comes to rest. Okay. And I think for this, we want that pointed down a little bit. And then once I'm happy with the animation, I'm going to apply some preset animation here. Then I'm going to offset the shoulder, elbow, and hand rotation keyframes. Offset them all by one frame starting from the shoulder. Okay. And that just gives it that kind of wavy feel. So watch. Okay. Let me slide those back over. Let's watch this closely. Okay, this is with the rotation keyframes of the arm all lined up on the same frame. Doesn't look bad, but it could look better. So this is all those keyframes offset by one frame. See how the water spigot thing, it kind of lags behind the two other parts of the arm. It's just a more natural movement. This is what the author of the animation survival kit calls breaking the limb. And of course, he's talking about traditional frame-by-frame animation, but we're replicating that concept in After Effects. I had a little tickle in my throat. And there's one thing I noticed. I think it's going a little too crazy up here. All right, we got a question here. Talking about the torso, what do you think about giving puppet to the torso and adding bones to the Duick? I think the end result is very strange and difficult to manage. If I'm understanding your question, using puppet pins and then using Duick bones and then rigging up the torso with that. With Duick, I avoid it. I find that torso rigging in Duick is overly complex. I usually just rig my torsos by parenting the head to the neck and then parenting the neck to the torso. For me, for most situation, that does just fine. I don't really understand or the way that Duick rigs up the torso and head. I just doesn't work for me. So anyway, good question though. Thanks for that. Okay, there's one other thing I want to do with the torso now that I'm watching this, and that is the rotation of the torso. So I have these rotation keyframes. I'm just going to delete those. And I'm going to create a rotation here. And we're going to see how this looks. Actually, let me start over there. Okay. So on the up, we want it to be at 0 degrees rotated, and then keyframe, and then boom. Okay. See how that looks. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then we just need to paste that keyframe. And then I'll paste onto the neck, offset by 1 frame, and then paste to the head, offset by 1 frame. See how that looks. Looks pretty good. Just giving a little bit of rotation to the torso. Let's go into the graph editor and just see. Okay, copy that ease and paste it to all of these. Way too much. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do to finish off this walk cycle is I'm going to come over to the Y position and offset it. And we got something weird happening at the beginning here. Jenny Mora asks, is it possible to run Limber without installing it? Yes. Okay, wait. Let me re-answer that. No, you can't run the script Limber, but if somebody has created a character rig with Limber and then saves that project file, you can open up that project file and make adjustments to that character rig without Limber. All scripts are doing is they are automating tasks that you could otherwise do yourself. So, you know, Limber is run with a bunch of JavaScript or Extend script, the scripting language that Adobe uses for After Effects. And basically, the buttons on the Limber panel are just executing things like creating a new shape layer and then adding a shape layer and adding all these expressions and controllers and all this stuff that are all connected. If you knew all that code, all that scripting, you could script it all up yourself. So Limber is not like a plugin where plugins are actually using programming language, adding functionality that After Effects otherwise doesn't have, as far as I understand it. So because Limber is just adding things that already exist in After Effects, but it's doing a lot more than most of us know how to do. It's automating all that. A Limber character rig can be opened up on a computer that doesn't have Limber installed, as long as you have After Effects installed. And there's probably some compatibility issues with older versions of After Effects, maybe that are using, I think After Effects now uses JavaScript, although you'd have to correct me on that if I'm wrong. Probably still uses ExtendScript too. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. If you're wanting to try out Limber, by the way, there's a link in the description. You go to that link, you can get a 7-day free trial and just try it out. Or there's a free version called Limber Lite. And I don't have that linked in the description, but you can find it. Google it, Limber Lite. It's a very stripped down version of Limber, but if you're wanting to try it out and practice animating, perfectly capable. Okay, we got something going crazy with this rotation. So I'm going to delete these first keyframes. I don't know why. It should be at 0. Okay. That seems to have fixed it. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. So now we got the walk cycle all done. By the way, the reason why I'm offsetting the Y keyframes is because the highest point of your walk cycle is not on the contact pose. Or, sorry. The lowest point, not the highest. The lowest point when your body is at its lowest point in the walk cycle is not on the contact pose. It's just after, because walking, and this is something I talk about in my course in depth, is the act of catching yourself over and over, catching your body falling. Your leg that goes forward kind of catches the ground and then responds to that shift in momentum as your body comes down and back up. Okay? Again, this is something we cover much more in depth in the course, but that's basically the principle behind it. And by the way, I learned that from the Animation Survival Kit, which is a book about animation. Okay, good. Now, the rotation can be probably worked on a little bit, but we're running out of time. I've got to get this done. So let's move on to the next, this other part of the animation. So I think I moved those keyframes. No, we're good. We're good. Okay, let's review this part of the animation. Brings it up. It looks like some of the rotation got kind of messed up. Okay, so I'm going to start with this guy first, this motion, because I think that motion's kind of driving this portion of the animation. So I'm actually going to delete all these rotation keyframes because I basically know what's going on here. I'm just going to redo it myself. I create keyframes here, and you'll see again I'm going to just animate this by getting all my keyframes set first. I don't know why this. Okay. going to do a little overshoot here. So a little anticipation, drawing it back, overshoot, and then final resting spot. Okay. Preview that. Okay. So, oops. We're going to add some easing to that. Sometimes when like the easing is, it's a little trick I do. I don't know if you call it a trick, but sometimes when the easing's all messed up, instead of going in there and trying to like fix it, one little graph editor at a time, I will just select all the keyframes, turn them back to linear, and then reapply an easy ease so that everything's even, and then I can go in and make the adjustment. So now that we're doing that, I can come in here and really adjust this easing. See how that feels. Okay, I'm going to copy this ease to these keyframes. I'm just going to see how that. Man, sometimes After Effects just. Okay. Now I notice that we got it really. Okay, so right now the motion as it comes up right here, it's like I need it to come up, slow down, and then hit. And right now it's just going come up, down. It's just going that it's not slowing down enough as it comes down like that. So I'm just going to come in to the graph editor, and as we can see, the steeper the curve here, the faster it is. So if we want to slow that down, we just pull these handles out, make that section more horizontal. That's slowing it down. So let's preview that. And then I think that is a little too crazy. Oops. Okay. Now, again, as it comes down, you'll see that my line here on the graph editor is really steep because I want that motion to be really quick because it's like it's being caught in the other hand. So the momentum isn't necessarily slowing down. It's going like almost like it's hitting the ground, right? So that's why I'm not pulling this handle out like that. I want it to be kind of abrupt. However, I don't want it to just come and stop because that doesn't look very good. I want it there to be a little bit springiness to it, you know. a little bit of a overshoot because, if I'm catching a heavy gun, even though I'm catching it and I'm stopping the momentum, my arm's going to kind of bounce a little bit, right? So we want to integrate some of that into the animation. And so what we'll do is, just like the other overshoot, we'll copy this last keyframe, we'll move it over a little bit, and then we'll paste this keyframe, and then we'll rotate that down a little bit. And in the graph editor, we're going to keep this part steep like that, and then we're going to pull that. Pull this. And it looks like maybe it might help if I come and grab the easing and just paste it. Yeah, see how that looks? Now, once we connect the other hand to the spigot so that it also reacts when it catches it, boom. So again, if we go into the graph editor, this part is steep because it's catching it. I want that spring there as it catches it, as it stops. And so that line I'm keeping very vertical because that means that change from going down back up is really quick. Okay, Suarkarta Vector asks, I really like drawing characters and animating them in After Effects. Yes, only characters. In your opinion, which industry is the best fit for this? Well, the motion design industry. So I do a lot of motion design and explainer videos. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. So I do a lot of explainer videos, and in those explainer videos, I do a lot of character animation. And you know that there's a demand for character animation After Effects because there's so many different tools out there. There's Limber, which is what we're using right now. There's Duick. There's Rubber Hose. There's DK tool. There's even a tool called Hot Dog. So with all these different third-party tools for character animation, it is something that people are doing a lot of and that companies want to hire you to do. So, and I can tell you, just from personal experience, when clients see that you could do character animation, they get really excited. So, oh, shoot. Adam, you're making me blush. So Jenny asks, due to the weight of the water spigot, I'm not going to say that word because I don't want to be caught up in YouTube's algorithm. So I'm calling it a spigot. I just don't want to be flagged. He bends his knees, right? That's a decision. That's a subjective decision you have to make on your own. So if we want to do that, let's see what it looks like. And by the way, this anticipation part where he kind of brings it back and then up, that's a whole body movement that we still have to do. It's not just the arm. Okay, before we get to the body, I want to connect this other wrist to it. So, oops. Let me grab this wrist controller. Where is it? There it is. And I'm going to delete these keyframes for now. And retime them for here. Of course, there's the rotation of the hand that needs to be brought over here. Oh, Well, okay, we'll get that in a second. I forgot to do one thing on this other arm, but we'll get back to that. Okay. So as the arm comes down right here, since we're in FK, we'll go to the left wrist. I'll create a keyframe here, and then on the next frame. Oh, before we do that, this is our wrist controller here. Okay. That controls all of our rotation and everything for our wrist. This controller is our FK wrist controller, and that's what we parent the hand to so that it follows the arm. So now I want to switch from FK, which is what we've been animating, to IK. Now, if I go to the wrist and I go over to the FK settings and I turn this down from 100%, which means FK, to 0%, look what happens to the arm. It goes back to where the IK controller is. But we want it to be over here. We don't want it to be down there. We want a seamless transition from FK to IK that the audience will never know happened. Okay? Well, let me undo that. Limber comes with this nifty tool. If I go over to the side, it has a match IK to FK. Now watch what happens to this controller when I hit that. It goes right to where the FK controller is. So it's matched up now. So now if I come down to my timeline, I've got this keyframe here on the FK. I go to the next frame and I switch this to 0%. Nothing happens to my arm. So that's 100% right now. And that's 0%. So the arm's not moving because the two controllers are in the exact same position. So that's how you can switch between FK and IK. So now why do I want to switch back to IK? Because on this frame, I can take the IK controller and I can place it right there where he would be catching the spigot. And then I come down to the timeline here and I'll parent this to the spigot layer, which I just happen to know it's not properly named, but it's named layer 1. So now let's make those controllers smaller. See how if we go by frame, the arm, oops, sorry. You guys can't see what I'm looking at. We go frame by frame, the arm now reacts to the spigot. So let's and here's another thing we could do. I just had this idea. We could actually have him catch it up here. Go like that. So we don't even need these rotation keyframes. We'll just need to adjust the rotation of the hand. I don't like that. So we're going to go back to what we had before. And I think the rotation of the hand is just a little too crazy, right? Okay. Okay. So, still something a little off with the water spigot hand. And that is we didn't offset all these keyframes. Now watch. It's going to totally look different. With that pre-render. Okay. So look at that animation versus the original. Right? Okay. Now we'll go back to After Effects. And we'll watch this one more time. Much more weight to it, right? Now, let's experiment a little bit because I think it was Jenny who said, you know, would the weight of the water gun cause him to bend his knees? Let's experiment. Let's see what that looks like real quick. So let's go to the torso. We have all this animation on the torso. Right here is where it's going to hit. So we'll do a keyframe on the Y position. And then another keyframe. And then here. Go into the graph editor. And I think yeah. See what that looks like. The timing of that is not quite right. Yeah, it's like delayed. All right, well, we are almost done here. I've got to move on. That's a good suggestion. If I were to want to pursue that idea on a real project, I would continue fiddling with that until it kind of felt right. So a lot of times that's what it is. You're just kind of trying to figure out like what's going on here, how to do something. It's not quite working for me right now. So, you know, if this were a project where I had a time budget or a time frame, tight deadline, that would be something that I might decide, you know what, that little crouch doesn't add enough to spend the time on it. So the one thing I want to do with this swinging motion is I want to add some rotation in the body as he swings it. So the anticipation, and then this motion. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to copy those rotation keyframes, come to the neck again. Paste those, offset by one keyframe. Come to the head. Paste those. The head is really exaggerated. I kind of like it though. Yeah. 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 We really get a sense of weight. Okay. Last thing, we need to do the gun, the spigot going back as he expels the water. I was doing so good not saying that word. Okay, then I'm gonna animate the spigot, kind of doing this backwards motion. Now, we're gonna do another thing where we match the IK to the FK. So I'm gonna come to the right wrist here. Match IK to FK. That's going to move the right wrist right where it is. And then I'm going to create a keyframe on the FK. Go one frame. Turn that FK off. So now, because this is parented to the hand, which is parented to the FK controller, which is parented to the IK controller, now I can just use the wrist controller, bring up the position, and then I can just use the wrist controller to move it back. So this is one of those situations where being able to switch to IK is really beneficial, right? Particularly for this left hand, because now it's stuck to the spigot. I can animate the spigot going back and forth, and the left arm is going to react to that animation. I don't have to go in and manually keyframe those rotation for the shoulder and elbow and wrist, because it's all being done with IK. This is one of the biggest reasons why I love Limber, is its support for FK versus IK and the tools that it has to switch between those two modes. You got to have FK. One of my biggest gripes with tools like DK Tool and Rubber Hose, no FK. Okay, they have a thing called flopping or auto flop, which is for walk cycles, but it's not FK. So stuff like this, FK is really good for certain kind of animations, and then IK is better for some others. And this is one of those situations where IK is really good for the animation. So go back and then forward again. Ease that. only part. Then, of course, I'm going to also animate the body kind of reacting to that force, right? So it kind of reacts to that force, and then just like always, I'm going to take those rotation keyframes, paste them on the neck, offset those, and then paste it on the head. Okay. Cool. Now let's preview the entire animation. Okay, we're at a one of these live streams. I'd love to keep it under an hour, but let this RAM preview. Okay, so there you go. Everything is slightly exaggerated. We've added more weight to the little spigot thing, and we've just overall added some more character to the animation. Okay, cool. So we're done. That's it. I mean, there's maybe some other things that I could do with it, other adjustments, but I think at this point, like the last kind of 45 minutes, it's been basically kind of little adjustments that really come down to taste and subjectivity. So anyway, that's it. Adam, thank you for the kind words. Adam says it is awe-inspiring to see such a master like yourself at work. I don't know if I would call myself a master, but thank you so much for that kind compliment. And then Surakarta Vector. Sorry, I always have to kind of sound that out. A returning viewer to the live streams. By the way, if you ever want to go back and watch some of my other live streams, we're always talking about different aspects of character animation. Those are up on my channel. If you're interested in character animation, go check those out. Also, if you are interested in character animation and you want a focused course, you know, with YouTube, you kind of have to piece together your kind of education. But if you want to focus learning path, again, there's my course, Character Animation Launchpad, link in the description. You go check it out. Go see what it's about. Yeah, Mr. Harker, love it. It's like he's walking, thinking, ugh, another fire to put out. Awesome. So these are the kinds of things we're going over in the course. This is, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream for those who maybe joined a little bit late. This is the assignment of the first module where we show you how to do a walk cycle, how to make a walk cycle like this where it walks across the screen without the feet sliding. And then the assignment is to do a walk cycle and then have your character do something at the end of that walk cycle. When they come to a stop, they do some kind of action. And I go over kind of a lot of what we talked about in today's live stream, of course, about kind of the thought process behind my decision making, and also we go over some of the methods for going over this. And of course, in the course, we also go over how to create this little head rig right here. It's very subtle. I don't know if you can see it with the quality turned down to a third, but maybe if I don't know if, and I don't know if you'll see it on the YouTube compression, but his eyebrows are kind of raising. And this is a very minimal head rig, but we go over how to rig the eyebrows, the mouth, and the eyes, and everything, so you can actually show emotion with your character. The hands here are just kind of the same hands. We go over how to rig up the hands so you can have different hand poses. We really go in depth. And then that's all just the first module. Second module is taking everything to the next level with 2.5D animation and how to rig that up. And then the third module is creating stuff that is even beyond that. So incorporating things like foreshortening and stuff like that. Animating characters from kind of unique perspectives. A lot of times character animations in After Effects and, quite frankly, in Character Animator are at this kind of 3/4 profile. It's very common. In fact, it's very common in a lot of cartoons that you see. But in this course, I show you how I kind of approach creating animations that are from a bunch of different perspectives. One of those perspectives I can show. Is this animation here? We're kind of looking up at the character as they take off. Stuff like that. So if you want to learn more, you come to this this page, a little bit more of a description of everything. And the price for that course is, because we're just launching, is at $197. It is going to bump up to $300 in the next week or so. So if you want to get it now at $197, or you can get it at $99 for a 2-month payment option. $99, that's like 1/10 of a freelance project, So we've really tried to keep it affordable. If you were to compare this course to other character courses out there, if you were to go to School of Motion, and you'd have to take 2 courses, because they have a course on rigging and then they have a course on animation. And the total between those 2 courses would be like $1,200. And I'm teaching you everything that those courses teach in this course. Of course, they're using Duik. We're using Limber because I think it's a better tool. But essentially, if you want to create character animations, everything you need to know is in this course. If you were to go to Motion Design School and take one of their character animation courses, it's still around $600. So we're making this really affordable, especially right now because we are launching it. And so get it for $200 before that deal goes away. And of course, if you take the course, you're not satisfied, you get your money back. Full 30-day money back guarantee. No questions asked. Just email me, say, hey, I didn't learn what I was looking to learn in this course. I'll give you your money back. And for those of you who are interested in taking the course, there's a free preview of the course. If you go to courses.keyframeacademy.com and scroll down to the course curriculum, there's a free preview course that you can watch there. The course comes with a 3-month full access license to Limber. That way you don't have to purchase Limber before taking the course. If you want to just try out Limber, and you get it for 3 months, so you have 3 months to take the course and use Limber as much as you need it. We also have a little private community where you can share your animations. That's where this animation from today's live stream came from. You can share that, get feedback from other students. feedback is a huge thing in learning, guys. Earlier, I talked about, there's two kind of aspects of learning character animation. There's the technical aspect. You got to learn the software. You got to learn the tools. And then there's the intuitive aspect. You got to learn what looks good, why it looks good, so that you can see things that don't look good and know why they don't look good. Okay? Know what, you need to be able to put your finger on why something doesn't look the way it should or doesn't look quite right. So getting feedback and interacting with other people who do character animation is a big part of developing that particular skill. All the lessons are on demand, so it's not a semester based thing. And I also go over how to design characters for rigging. So we take you from the design process all the way through finish the animation. All right, so that's my pitch. That's it about the course. Before I jump off, I always like to give you guys a chance to ask any last minute questions of me. Thanks, Jenny, for joining the live stream. Hope you learned a little bit. And again, if you are just joining the live stream, you can go back. If you missed the live stream, it'll be up on my channel for you to catch after the fact. So I think that about does it. Before we end, let's just do a little before and after. Right? Let's see. Let me set this before or after up. Okay. 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 Give me a second here. Trying to figure out the best way to show this before and after. Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can switch it to... shoot, I don't know if I'm going to be able to... Here's what we'll do. Go back to After Effects. I'm going to import the two versions. Okay, that's the original version. Come on, pause. And adjust this to 12 seconds. And then we'll grab revealing composition. Okay. Grab that. Okay. So here is the before and after. Here's the before. Here, I'm going to turn the hose off because that obviously we didn't work on that. Okay, so let this RAM preview. If you guys have any questions, make sure you get them in the chat because we're about to end after this. So while we're going through this. Okay, so here's the before. Here's the after. Yay. I keep forgetting. I got to adjust the timing of everything because we did extend the timing a little bit. Okay, that'll be good enough. Sorry, guys. Should have had this better prepared. I mean, RAM preview that. Yeah, Adam, really good for. I know this is my buddy, and he's an incredible motion designer, incredible animator, but he doesn't do a lot of character animation. So, with that kind of context, this really is really well done. So we're just watching the before and after here. Obviously, I would make more adjustments to that water coming out, but hopefully now you can see the difference, particularly in the wielding of the water spigot. It's just a lot more energy in the walk. And just like was mentioned before, you know, I think by Mr. Harker, the animation kind of communicates like this, like, you know, walking up, thinking, oh, another fire, let's put it out. And a lot of that is communicated in the walk, believe it or not. You know, we could have them running up and stopping or sneaking up. You know, a lot of that action tells a story. So, all right, guys. Well, if there are no more questions, we'll wrap it up there. Make sure you guys do me a favor and hit the like button on the video. That tells YouTube that you enjoyed this and that other people might enjoy this live stream. And so when other people are searching for character animation or searching for Limber or whatnot, this video is going to pop up as an option. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification icon or notification bell so you know the next time we go live. If you have character animation that you have done and you either want to go through it like this, or it's something you're like, I like it, but I don't quite know what's, you know, something's off and I can't put my finger on it. Email it to me. Email me the project file and we might feature it in a future live stream. If you, sorry, just doing the whole housekeeping and in the stream. Here are my social medias down here. Go follow me on Instagram. Go follow me on TikTok. And then, obviously, YouTube. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. And thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys in the next live stream. Hopefully next Wednesday or Thursday. Usually Wednesday. But this week, I wasn't quite ready on Wednesday, so we did Thursday. So, yeah. We talk about all things After Effects and character animation on this channel. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Surakarta, thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Yo, what's up? You're just catching the end of the live stream, so go back and watch the live stream. Thanks, everybody.